righty, welcome. I'm Shannon and I'm in Missouri. So go ahead in the chat, drop your name and where you're calling in from. Can everyone hear me okay? If you can, type yes in the chat or give me a hands up. Great, thank you. All right, it's good to see you all here. A couple names I recognize, some of you I don't. So for those who don't know me, I'm Shannon Schroet, and I am a life and business strategist, a coach, speaker, published author. I also have 2 master's degrees, and one of them is a master's in management and leadership, and I'm also the visionary behind Spectacular Living. So today we're going to talk about leadership mastery. And before we get into leveling up as a leader, I just wanted to get your permission, if I may. So some of the topics I'm going to talk about, they could disagree with some of your thought processes. And when we have disagreements, sometimes people tend to feel a little offended. So if I can get your permission to offend you, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat. And we will start talking about how to level up our leadership or level up us as leaders. So in order to lead, we have to understand that there's actually 2 types of people. There's leaders and there's followers. And what do followers want from a leader? And they actually want 3 things. And the first one is they want to lead. They want to be led. So if you can put led in the chat, that would be great. What that means is they want to be guided. They want advice. They want to be inspired and motivated, but they want it when they want it. It's not something that they want all the time. And everybody wants it in different ways. They want that support. They want to be accountable. Not everybody understands that they want to be accountable, though. So there's a little bit of a fine line there. The second thing that they want is growth. So if you can, drop growth in the chat. They want goals and targets. Everybody wants a reason to get up in the morning. So they want to be stimulated. We all want to be stimulated. Can you imagine what life would be like if everything is boring? It's dull and drab and we have nothing to look forward to. So the third thing is people want to belong. So if you'll drop belong in the chat, they just don't want to fit in. They want to be heard and understood. People, when you have somebody coming in to be interviewed for a new position and they want to know about the culture of the organization, what they're asking about is, does my values align with the culture? And because if the culture and the values don't align, then they're not going to be a fit. And we all know as leaders that any culture, it actually stems from management. It stems from owners and leaders, and they're the driving force behind that culture. So those are the 3 things that followers want in a leader. But what is a leader? Through all of my professional experience, my education, even, you hear everybody talk about, it's traits and characteristics of a leader. They give leadership styles. But the one thing I never hear anybody talk about is a great leader is somebody who can lead themselves. So how can you, as a leader, if you can't lead yourself, how can you possibly lead anybody else? So I was very successful in my professional career. To the point I was so successful, but in all honesty, I was unsuccessful in my personal life. I wore many hats, and I climbed up in business and as a leader. I had people who would come to me asking to work with me. I had people that would follow me from one business to another, completely different industry. Why? Because they not only liked working with me, but they wanted to work for me. They saw something in me that they wanted. Now, followers, they follow leaders because there's something about them that they want a piece of. They don't necessarily want to be a leader, and they don't want to necessarily always be in management position. But it's just like, have you ever saw that one person who is just so outgoing and energizing and so positive, and they're so fun. They're just fun to be around. You want to be around those people because you're soaking up some of that positivity, some of that energy, and it's really energizing yourself. You're motivated, you're enjoying yourself. It heightens all your senses. So followers, they want to follow a leader because there's something about them that they don't have. So they want to be around them. They want to be mentored by them. They want to be Miyagi'd by them. And what Miyagi means is, just like the Karate Kid movie, wax on, wax off. You're teaching them how to do something without them realizing that they're actually learning something. Because nobody wants to be told what to do. They all want to be guided, and they want to learn, but they want to learn at their pace. They want it to be their idea. And so that's the whole concept behind being Miyagi. And as I developed my skills, and I went from a leader who I was so immersed into my career that my personal life, honestly, it sucked. And I grew up listening to these quotes of money doesn't grow on trees. Or you probably heard, you can't, if you want something, you have to work hard for it. Those are the things that I grew up with. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing against any of that. But subconsciously, it actually formed my perspective of, I either had to work or I had to have a personal life, but I couldn't have both. And so throughout my transition, I learned to have both. And once I developed a fulfilling personal life, that actually bled into my personal life, and it leveled, my professional life, and it leveled up my career and myself as a leader. And so, it gave me these bonuses of being good at relationships, not just personally, but professionally. When I was thriving in my career, but my personal life wasn't that great, I thought I was bad at relationships. That was my perspective. But in all honesty, if I was bad at relationships, then how can I be successful professionally? Because we have relationships throughout our career. It's not just relationships in our personal life. And I also felt guilty for doing anything other than working, which led to me putting in long hours. I was a workaholic, working 7 days a week, minimum 14-hour days. And with that, I was exhausted. But as leaders, we show up and we affect those around us. I worked for this guy. He would come in, and depending on his attitude for the day, depend on how everybody else in the office behaved. So if he came in and he was in a great mood, everybody else was. But if he came in and he was having a bad day, and he was nitpicking everything, then everybody was tense, and it was just a miserable day. So as leaders, we affect those around us. And if we're exhausted, then we're not providing our all as a leader. So let's talk about leaders. There's 3 different types, really, and most leaders fall in the 90% category. Now I'm going to put this in red because this isn't really somewhere that you want to be as a leader. So 90% fall in here. And what that is it's the good enough stage. So I bet you can imagine as a leader being in the good enough stage probably isn't actually a great leader. It's where they're fine where they're at. They believe that they can lead others, but they don't need to move forward. They don't need to level up. They also believe that this gives them the right, or their title makes them the leader. So therefore, they're going to be sought after as the leader. But they also believe that their professional life is the only success they need. And they don't want to invest in themselves. So here's the thing about investing in yourself, or investment of any kind. The things that people remember most is how you make them feel. We invest in brands based off of how they make us feel. We invest in strangers, complete and total strangers, because how they make us feel. We like them, so we're willing to invest in them. We will invest in a complete stranger because we like them before we ever invest in ourselves. Think about that. This 90% isn't a growth. As a leader, if you're not growing, how can you help the others grow? Remember, your followers want growth. So 8% of our leaders. 8% of our leaders are in the best stage. They want to get help. They want to be guided. They want to be coached. Oprah Winfrey, she has a life coach. She pays $1 million every year for a life coach. She has it all, doesn't she? I mean, I look at her and I think she has it all. It's not that you have it all. It's that you want to constantly level up. You want to grow. And you want to be better. You want to be able to be somebody who can service the others better, somebody who can lead the others better. And this 8%, they're willing to invest in themselves. They are willing to invest in their people, into business. They are about investment. They also understand that title isn't their identity. Their title is not their identity. And with that, it doesn't make them a leadership status. So 2% of people, two percent of leaders is lead myself to lead the others. So if you can't lead yourself, how can you possibly lead others? 2% of leaders understand this. So they're not only willing to invest in themselves, but they are willing to aspire others. Because all aspects of their life, they are leading. They're willing to grow. They learn how to be guilt-free with their work-life balance. I don't like to say balance, I like to say harmony. They're not at the good enough stage. This is the good enough stage. And what good enough means is good enough is below average. You are willing to be below average. Up here, they're willing to be better. They are willing to learn how to delegate so they can create more time. They're willing to refocus. They're willing to shift. They're willing to be to achieve success in their career and in their personal life. So, how do you lead yourself? Well, it all starts with you. You are the center. And then there's about 5 things that surround you. This is your environment as a leader. And these are all the aspects that you need to lead. So the first one is your mindset. You can't shift your life unless you shift your mind. And with that, what that means is, you need a synchronized harmony. You need to be present in the moment. Be mindful. Once you create these things, what it does is it makes the other people around you feel like they're heard and understood, which is all part of the things that, followers want from leaders. But another aspect is your personal or private life. And this is where you learn to unshelf yourself. You learn how to be good at relationships. People aren't bad at relationships. They just don't know how to be good at relationships. And this includes with the people that you work with, your direct reports, your customers, your friends, your family. Relationships is also with money. You have relationships with all kinds of things. So you're actually not bad at it. You just have to learn how to be better at it. This is also where you learn to enjoy life. You do all those things that you enjoy. For me, I got so busy in work that I didn't even know what I enjoyed. I didn't know I enjoyed kayaking until I actually did it. Now it's so easy to do that deep dive because your personal life, there's things that happens, or something you don't want to deal with, or a number of things that, like myself, I did a deep dive into work. I just buried myself in there because it was easier to be busy with work and use that as my excuse, although I didn't think it was an excuse at the time, than it was to deal with some of these things or to make time. So I actually believed I didn't have the time. But busy is very time consuming. So as a leader, you have to understand that. And being productive is very efficient. Productivity allows you to free up time. So once you start unshelving yourself and you lead your life, then you get to lead your job. Yes, I was successful in my career, but I became more successful once I learned how to level up. And within my job, I learned not to be busy, but productive. So there's this study that was conducted, and I think it may have been in Switzerland, but don't quote me on that. And in this study, it actually proved in a 5-hour time frame, a person was way more productive than they were in an 8-hour day. By 3:00 in the afternoon, an employee's productivity actually drops for a number of reasons. One, they start, if they have children, they start thinking about, oh, my kids are getting out of school, I wonder what they're doing. So their mind wanders off of their work. But it also is a time where people start feeling fatigued. So, but the point is, you could be very productive in a short amount of time, more so than anything else. And as you busy yourself, you actually lose time. So time management, delegate. Most leaders, they have a hard time delegating. They either micromanage or they take on additional work because they feel their employees can't do it. But let me share with you, if your employees can't do their job, why are they working for you? These are things as leaders that we need to think about and we need to address. So delegate to them, because what you're doing is you're building trust. You're allowing growth. You're making your employees feel like they belong. Now, you need to lead by example. So the other thing in this complete aspect is money. Our relationship with money is important. So if I had, just imagine I had $1 million, $100 bills just stacked right here. That money has absolutely no value. It is nothing but paper. It doesn't become valuable until I exchange it for something. So if I invest it into an ad, then it has value, especially if I get a return on investment. If I take this money and I pay my bills, it has value. But just sitting here, it would have no value. Our self-worth is based on actions and not a title or money. I used to value myself based off of my job title. I'd value myself based off of the amount of money I made. I would value myself based off of the things that I owned. But that's not my identity. So the value of myself as a leader is actually my actions and how I lead others. The other thing, the last thing, is actually health. And no, I am not talking about going to the gym or going on a diet. But what I am talking about is your well-being and how you lead yourself, mind, body, and soul. If you come into work exhausted. So I used to work with a team leader throughout the entire year, for the most part. Always open the door, hold the door open for whoever would walk through, would walk into the office, very upbeat, very positive, saying good mornings, doing his rounds, saying hi to everybody and making sure, everybody started off with a good morning. It was great. It was a great way to boost morale. Except for the 4 months that was his busy season, because at that point, he would go and be so exhausted. He was working 7 days a week, probably at least 18 hours a day. And as time went during this 4 months, he'd be tired. He'd be thinking about all the things that he needs to do. That he wouldn't open the door anymore. In fact, he closed the door in my face a couple of times. He didn't say good morning, but that affected all the people in the office. And it was interesting to see, because the people, when he was like that as a leader, the people would sit there at their desks, they would do their job, but they were quiet. They weren't smiling anymore. It was like they shrunk up. But when he was outgoing and, good mornings, they were like, hey, hi, they joked, they worked, they got their stuff done, but it was a higher level, energy level. But my point is, leaders affect those around them. So you as a leader, if you're not leading your well-being, if you're not leading your thought processes or how tired you are, your behavior, then you're not meeting your leadership potential. And the nice thing about leading your health is that you learn how to turn off work. You can disconnect from work. You learn how to unshelf yourself, which is very selfish. And selfish is actually a positive thing. Self-centered is a negative thing because that's all about you, no matter who it hurts or how it hurts them. But selfish is all about your self-care. Because when you can take care of yourself, then you can help take care of the others. When you can lead yourself, you can lead others. It gives you a clarity of mind. That way you can engage and be present, and then the others feel heard and understood. It's basically a better version of you. So one of the things growing up, I grew up in business. Everybody in my family owned a business. And one of the things my dad taught me was how to be a great business person. He would always tell me, you know what? You know your strengths and weaknesses. You know how far you can get yourself. Surround yourself with people who can get you further. Now, I didn't realize it at the time. And, he was talking about how to be a great business person. But really, what he was talking about was how to be a great leader. Leaders don't have to know everything, they don't have to be perfect. They just have to be present.